Captain Lee Daeho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the massive space station grow larger on the main screen. Nexus Prime was the heart of the Galactic Council, a gleaming structure that housed representatives from hundreds of our worlds. Today, Earth's future hung in the balance. "Sir, we're receiving docking instructions," reported Lieutenant Park Min-ho from the communications station. His voice carried tension that everyone on the bridge could feel. "Take us in, Lieutenant," Lee Daeho ordered. He adjusted his blue Earth uniform, knowing this might be one of the last times he wore it with pride in Council space. The emergency session had been called because of the Vorlak Empire. These aggressive aliens from beyond Council territory had been attacking outer colonies for months. Earth's military leaders believed a quick strike could stop them before they grew stronger. But the 5 founding species of the Council, the Kethmori, Zephyrians, Altarians, Veltar, and Nexari, rarely listened to human suggestions. Admiral Park So-min waited in the docking bay as Lee Daeho's shuttle arrived. Her weathered face showed years of frustration dealing with Council politics. "Any word from Dr. Choi?" she asked as they walked toward the Council chambers. "He's already inside, presenting our battle plans," Lee Daeho replied. "Though I doubt they'll listen." The Council chamber was enormous, with floating platforms for each species' representatives. Humans occupied a small platform near the back, befitting their status as the newest and least respected members. Dr. Choi Hyun-woo, Earth's chief diplomat, stood before the central podium addressing the alien delegates. "The Vorlak have shown they respond only to strength," Dr. Choi was saying. "Human forces could strike their main base while they're spread thin attacking colonies. We've done the calculations." A tall Kethmori delegate waved a dismissive tentacle. "Humans always suggest violence as the first solution. This is why your species remains junior members after a century." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Lee Daeho clenched his fists, but Admiral Park So-min placed a warning hand on his arm. "Perhaps," suggested the elderly Zephyrian first speaker, "we should negotiate with the Vorlak, find out what they truly want." Dr. Choi's face reddened. "They want to conquer everything in their path. You can't negotiate with that." "The human perspective is noted," the first speaker said coldly. "But we will pursue diplomatic solutions first." The session continued for hours, with Earth's representatives growing more frustrated. Every tactical suggestion was dismissed. Every offer of military support declined. Finally, the Council voted to send a diplomatic mission to the Vorlak, with strict orders not to engage in hostilities. As the delegates filed out, Commander Kim Ji-won approached Admiral Park So-min. The intelligence officer looked troubled. "Ma'am, I need to speak with you privately. It's urgent." They met in a secure room aboard the Indomitable. Kim Ji-won activated a holographic display showing intercepted communications. "I've been monitoring Council military channels," she said quietly. "Look at this." The display showed shipping routes and fleet positions. Admiral Park So-min studied them for a moment, then her face went pale. "These are our positions, all of our fleet locations, transmitted directly to Vorlak command ships," Kim Ji-won confirmed. "The Council isn't just refusing our help, they're feeding us to the Vorlak as bait." Lee Daeho leaned forward. "You're certain of this?" "The transmissions are encrypted with Council military codes. Only the 5 founding species have access." Kim Ji-won's voice was bitter. "They're sacrificing us to buy time for their own evacuation." Admiral Park So-min stood slowly. "Dr. Choi needs to see this. Now." They found Dr. Choi in his quarters, preparing for another diplomatic meeting. When he saw the evidence, his face went through several shades of anger before settling into cold determination. "I'm taking this directly to the Council floor," he announced. "Hyun-woo, they'll deny everything," Admiral Park So-min warned. "Let them try." The next morning, Dr. Choi requested an emergency session. The Council delegates looked annoyed at being called back so soon. Dr. Choi activated the holographic display and began presenting Kim Ji-won's evidence. "These communications show Council forces providing our fleet positions to the Vorlak Empire," he stated clearly. "You're using humanity as a sacrifice to protect your own worlds." The chamber erupted in angry voices from dozens of species. The Kethamori delegate rose to speak, but Dr. Choi cut him off. Don't bother denying it. We have the encryption codes, the transmission logs, everything. The first speaker of the Zephyrians stood slowly. His ancient face showed no shame, only mild irritation at being caught. Dr. Choi, he said in his thin voice, humanity has served its purpose in the Council. Your species' aggressive nature made you useful for dangerous assignments. Now that usefulness has ended, the chamber fell silent. Dr. Choi stared at the alien leader in disbelief. You're not even going to deny it? Why should we? Another delegate spoke up. The Vorlak want a fight, we're giving them one. Your ships will keep them busy while we evacuate key systems. You're talking about genocide, Dr. Choi whispered. We're talking about survival, the first speaker replied. The Council has voted. Humanity is expelled from galactic civilization. You have 48 hours to remove all human personnel and equipment from Council space. The platform holding Earth's delegation began descending toward the exit. Around the chamber, alien faces watched with cold indifference. A few species looked uncomfortable, but none spoke up in humanity's defense. This is madness, Dr. Choi shouted as security forces moved to escort him out. We've served faithfully for 100 years, and now that service ends, the first speaker said simply. Goodbye, humans. Back aboard the Indomitable, emergency alarms rang throughout the ship. Admiral Park So-min's voice echoed through the corridors. All hands to battle stations. Council. Security forces are moving to confiscate our vessels. Captain Lee Dae-ho ran to the bridge as weapon signatures appeared on sensors. Dozens of Council warships surrounded the human fleet, demanding surrender. Orders, sir? Asked Lieutenant Park Min-ho. Lee Dae-ho looked at the overwhelming enemy force. Human ships were outnumbered 50-1. But surrender meant death or slavery for his crew. Signal all ships, he ordered. We're leaving Council space. Anyone who tries to stop us becomes an enemy. The battle was fierce but brief. Human ships used hit-and-run tactics, striking quickly before jumping to new positions. Council forces had superior numbers but couldn't match human flexibility and speed. The Indomitable took heavy damage protecting the evacuation fleet. Whole sections were exposed to space, and dozens of crew members died fighting for their escape route. Finally, the surviving human ships jumped to hyperspace, leaving Council territory behind forever. Of the original 200 vessels, only 80 made it out. The rest were destroyed or captured, along with thousands of brave men and women who had served the Council faithfully. In the quiet of hyperspace, Admiral Park So-min stood on the damaged bridge of her flagship. Around her, crew members tended to wounded comrades and tried to repair broken systems. Where to now, Admiral? Asked Captain Lee Dae-ho. Park So-min stared at the star charts showing the galactic rim, empty space far from Council territory. Her voice was quiet but filled with steel. They wanted us gone? Fine. We'll go so far away they'll forget we exist. She turned to face her officers. But when we come back, it won't be as their junior partners. It won't be as their victims. We'll build something new out here, something better. The human fleet limped toward the edge of known space, carrying the dreams and anger of an entire species. Behind them, the Council celebrated their departure. Ahead lay empty systems and unknown dangers, but also opportunity. 5 years had passed since the human fleet limped away from Council space. The galaxy had changed more in those years than in the previous century. Engineer Yang Min-soo floated in zero gravity outside the massive shipyard orbiting Kepler 442. The construction was unlike anything built before. Modular sections that could be assembled quickly. Factories that learned and adapted with each ship they produced. Yang, we need your approval on the new destroyer design, called Engineer Lim Bo-ra through the comm system. Send it to my tablet, Yang replied, pulling himself back toward the airlock. The design appeared on his screen, sleek, angular, and completely different from traditional Council ships. Where alien vessels focused on ceremony and tradition, human ships prioritized function and survival. Back on Earth, President Lim Tai-kyung reviewed reports from 12 different star systems. All showed the same thing: rapid expansion, successful, colonies, and growing military strength. What had started as desperate refugee camps had become thriving worlds. The asteroid mining operations in Ross 128 are ahead of schedule, reported his aide, Colonel Han Soo-jin, and we've established contact with 3 more non-council species. President Lim nodded. What about the Threnody situation? General Kang says her Marines are ready. The Liberation mission launches tomorrow. General Kang Hyejin stood before a company of colonial Marines unlike any soldiers in galactic history. Dr. Song Young Mi's genetic enhancements had given them improved reflexes, stronger bones, and the ability to breathe different atmospheric mixes. But more importantly, they fought for freedom rather than conquest. Listen up, General Kang addressed her troops. The Threnody have been slaves for 3,000 years. They build the Council ships, mine their asteroids, and die in their factories. Tomorrow that ends. Sergeant Kim Dong-hyun raised his hand. General, intelligence reports show heavy Council defenses around their homeworld. Let them come, General Kang smiled grimly. We've got some surprises for our old friends. The liberation of Threnody Prime began at dawn. Admiral Lee Dae-ho, promoted after his heroic escape from Nexus Prime, led a fleet of 60 human warships against the Council garrison. The defenders expected another species of slaves to rescue. Instead, they faced humanity's fury. Human ships moved like living things, changing formation constantly and using tactics no Council commander had ever seen. The Threnody orbital platforms, built to serve their oppressors, suddenly turned their weapons against Council forces as Marine teams captured key facilities. This is Admiral Veltar Kresh to Human Fleet, came a transmission from the Council. Flagship. You are interfering in internal Council affairs. Withdraw immediately. Admiral Lee Dae-ho's response was broadcast on all frequencies. The Council expelled humanity from galactic civilization. We don't recognize your authority here. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the Council garrison was destroyed, or fleeing, and 4 billion Threnody were free for the first time in millennia. Elder Engineer Thakmor was the first Threnody to board a human ship. His people were tall and thin, with 6 arms that could work on multiple tasks simultaneously. He had spent 8 decades building Council vessels, never imagining he might see freedom. Why? He asked Admiral Lee Dae-ho in broken Council standard. Why risk your ships for slaves? Lee Dae-ho looked at the ancient alien, remembering his own people's betrayal. Because everyone deserves a choice. The Council treated us like tools too. We know how that feels. Thakmor's large eyes glistened with tears. What do you want from us? Partnership, Lee Dae-ho said simply. Share your knowledge, help us build ships, and in return we'll protect your people and help you rebuild your world. The Threnody integration became the model for what humans called the Federation. Unlike the Council's hierarchy, every species had equal voice and representation. Unlike Council expansion through conquest, the Federation grew through liberation and invitation. Dr. Song Young Mi worked with Threnody biotechnicians to develop new enhancement programs. The aliens' 6-armed physiology offered insights into neural coordination that improved human reflexes even further. In return, human genetic therapy helped Threnody overcome centuries of nutritional deficiencies caused by slavery. Ambassador Han Na-young established the first Federation Assembly, on New Geneva, humanity's capital world in the Tau Ceti system. Representatives from 6 species sat together as equals, something unthinkable in Council space. The Cathara want to join us, she reported to President Lim during a secure transmission. The Council has been strip mining their homeworld for rare metals. They're ready to fight back. And the Brenari? They're considering it. Their shell harvesting operations have been shut down since we freed the Threnody. The Council is squeezing them for tribute they can't pay. Meanwhile, in Council space, the first cracks were beginning to show. The Vorlak Empire had conquered 6 Council worlds while the founding species argued over resource distribution. Without human troops to throw at the problem, Council defense forces were struggling. Scientist Jeon Yoon-ji worked around the clock, in her laboratory on Luna Station. Her quantum communication project would allow instant contact across any distance, something that would give the Federation a massive advantage over the Council's slower-than-light communications. "Ma'am, we're ready for the first test," reported her assistant, Dr. Park Young-ho. The quantum transmitter hummed to life, sending a message to a receiver in the Alpha Centauri system. 4 light-years away, the signal arrived instantly. "Message. Received and confirmed," came the reply. "This is going to change everything." Admiral Park So-min, now Supreme Commander of Federation Forces, studied intelligence reports from deep inside Council territory. The news was troubling, but also encouraging. "The Council has lost contact with 18 colony worlds," reported Commander Kim Ji-won. "Either the Vorlak conquered them, or they declared independence." "What about Council fleet strength?" "Down 30% from when we left. They're having trouble maintaining ships without Threnody engineers." Park So-min smiled. "And our strength?" 240 ships across 47 systems, growing by 15 vessels per month. Captain Yoon Jae-min burst into the briefing room with urgent news. "Supreme Commander, long-range scouts report massive Council fleet movements. They're massing ships near the Barrier Nebula." "How many ships?" Admiral Park So-min asked. "At least 3,000. And they're not alone. We've detected Vorlak signatures mixed in with Council forces." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The Council had allied with the very enemy they'd sacrificed humanity to appease. "They're coming for us," Commander Kim Ji-won said quietly. Admiral Park So-min stood slowly. For 5 years, the Federation had grown and thrived in the Galactic Rim. They'd rescued enslaved species, built mighty fleets, and created something beautiful in the darkness between stars. Now that peace was ending. "Send word to all Federation worlds," she ordered. "Begin mobilization procedures. Recall all exploration fleets and activate reserve shipyards." As her staff hurried to carry out orders, Park So-min walked to the observation deck. Outside, she could see human and alien crews working together on Federation ships. Threnody engineers collaborated with human designers. Kythera miners delivered raw materials to Brinari fabricators. Former enemies had become family. The Council thought they could destroy this with brute force. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Dr. Choi Hyun-woo joined her at the viewport. Now Secretary of Science for the Federation, he'd spent 5 years developing new technologies and defensive strategies. "The prototype is ready," he said quietly. "The Nemesis class? Captain Oh Soo-jin has been training with it for months. If our calculations are correct, it'll give us the edge we need." Admiral Park So-min nodded. Humanity had been cast out, betrayed, and nearly destroyed. But from that pain, they'd built something better than what they'd lost. "Let them come," she said. "They'll find us ready." The Federation had grown beyond anyone's wildest dreams. What started as 80 damaged ships had become a force spanning 200 star systems. Admiral Bae Sung-ho stood on the bridge of the Liberation, watching his fleet conduct maneuvers in the Kepler 45P2 system. "Sir, the Morvani delegation has arrived," reported Communications Officer Lee Soo-jin. Bae Sung-ho nodded. The Morvani were another enslaved species, forced to serve as living computers for Council bureaucracy. Their rescue would be the Federation's largest operation yet. Ambassador Han Na-young met with the Morvani representatives in a secure conference room. Unlike the towering Threnody or the crystalline Kythera, the Morvani were small and delicate, with oversized heads containing remarkable intelligence. "We have calculated the probabilities," said Chief Mathematician Kexley in her melodic voice. "Council defenses around our homeworld are formidable, yet we believe freedom is worth any risk." "The Federation doesn't abandon its friends," Han Na-young assured her. "We've learned that the hard way. Across Federation space, scientist John Eunji's quantum communication network buzzed with constant activity. Military commanders, civilian leaders, and rescue coordinators could now speak instantly across vast distances. The advantage this gave the Federation over Council forces was enormous. "Admiral Park, this is Dr. Jian on Luna Station," came a transmission from the solar system. "We're detecting massive energy signatures near the Barrier Nebula. Council and Vorlak fleets are joining together." Admiral Park So-min responded from her flagship orbiting New Geneva. "How many ships total?" "Over 4,000, ma'am. The largest fleet in galactic history." Captain Yoon Jaemin's special operations teams had been busy for months, infiltrating Council space to gather intelligence. What they discovered was worse than anyone imagined. The Council has promised the Vorlak Empire 20 human worlds, he reported during a secure briefing. They're planning to wipe out the Federation and divide our territory. General Kang Hye-jin slammed her fist on the table. After everything we've done for enslaved species, they still see us as the enemy. The Council's founding species have ruled for 10,000 years, explained Dr. Kwon In-ho, the Federation's chief tactical analyst. To them, we represent chaos, a threat to the natural order they've created. President Lim Tae-kyung addressed the Federation Assembly from New Geneva. Representatives from 43 different species listened as he spoke. The Council and Vorlak are coming to destroy everything we've built. They want to return freed species to slavery and eliminate humanity from the galaxy. We will not let that happen. The Assembly voted unanimously for total mobilization. Every world would contribute ships, troops, and resources to the coming battle. Dr. Choi Hyun-woo worked feverishly in his research facility, putting finishing touches on the Federation's secret weapon. The Nemesis-class destroyer represented everything humanity had learned about warfare and engineering. Captain Oh-soo-jin, your ship is ready, he announced. Captain Oh-soo-jin examined the Retribution with wonder. The vessel looked like no ship ever built. Angular and sleek with hull sections that could reconfigure during battle. Traditional armor was replaced with adaptive plating that adjusted to different weapon types. How does it work? She asked. The ship's AI learns from every engagement, Dr. Choi explained. It can switch from stealth reconnaissance to heavy assault in minutes. The Council's rigid tactics won't know how to respond. Fleet Admiral Ro Ki-tae coordinated Federation defenses from the command station at Meridian Nebula. The nebula's dense gas clouds would interfere with sensors, forcing both sides to fight at close range. It was the perfect place for humanity's flexible tactics. Admiral, scout ships report the enemy fleet approaching, announced Commander Park Hyun-soo. They'll reach the nebula in 6 hours. Signal all ships, Ro Ki-tae ordered. Take positions, according to Plan Gamma. And remind all crew members, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every species that dreams of freedom. The Morvani rescue operation launched simultaneously with the fleet movements. Admiral Bae Sung-ho led a strike force deep into Council territory, while the main enemy fleet was distracted. Morvani homeworld in sight, reported his navigation officer. Council defenses are lighter than expected. The reason became clear quickly. Most Council ships had been sent to join the main fleet. Only garrison forces remained to guard enslaved worlds. Begin planetary liberation protocol, Bae Sung-ho ordered. Federation Marines landed on Morvani Prime while fleet units engaged orbital platforms. The planet's surface was covered with massive computing complexes where millions of Morvani lived and worked in servitude. This is General Shin Woo-hyun to all Morvani, he broadcast. Federation forces are here to free you. Move to designated safe zones and prepare for evacuation. The mathematical precision of Morvani society worked in the Federation's favor. Within hours, entire population centers had organized themselves for rescue operations. Meanwhile, at the Meridian Nebula, the largest space battle in galactic history was about to begin. Council Vorlak forces numbered 4,200 ships commanded by species with millennia of military experience. The Federation could field only 1,800 vessels, many crewed by recently freed slaves, but Admiral Park So-min had advantages the enemy couldn't match. Her forces communicated instantly across the battlefield while Council commanders waited precious minutes for orders. Federation ships could adapt their tactics mid-battle while alien fleets followed predetermined patterns. Enemy fleet entering the nebula, reported sensor operator Kim Mi-young. They're maintaining traditional battle formations. Park So-min smiled. Perfect. They're doing exactly what Dr. Kwon predicted. The Federation fleet dispersed throughout the nebula's gas clouds using the sensor interference to mask their positions. When Council forces advanced in neat formations, they found empty space. Now, Park So-min ordered, Federation ships struck from all directions. Human destroyers appeared behind Council battle lines while Threnody cruisers attacked from above. and below. The careful alien formations dissolved into chaos as commanders struggled to coordinate responses. Captain Oh Soo-jin's retribution demonstrated the power of adaptive technology. The ship's AI analyzed enemy weapons and adjusted its armor accordingly. When Vorlak ships fired plasma cannons, the hull became reflective. Against Council particle beams, it turned absorbent. "Their weapons are barely scratching us," reported her tactical officer. "Then let's show them what real firepower looks like," Oh Soo-jin replied. The Nemesis-class destroyer reconfigured for assault mode, extending additional weapon pods and charging its quantum torpedoes. The experimental weapons punched through Council shields like they were made of paper. Fleet Admiral Rokite coordinated the complex battle using Zhao Nunji's quantum network. When Vorlak forces tried to flank Federation positions, he instantly repositioned ships to counter them. When Council commanders attempted to retreat and regroup, Federation forces were already moving to cut them off. "Sir, enemy flagship is requesting communication," announced his communications officer. The transmission came from the ancient Council vessel Eternal Dominion. Its commander was First Admiral Korvash, a Kethmori who had never lost a battle in 3 centuries of warfare. "Human Admiral." Korvash's voice carried disbelief. "Your forces fight like madmen. There is no pattern to your attacks." "That's the point," Rokite replied. "We don't follow your rules anymore." The battle raged for 6 days across the entire nebula system. Council and Vorlak forces had superior numbers, but Federation coordination and adaptability proved decisive. When alien commanders tried to use their species' different fighting styles together, the results were often confusion rather than strength. Dr. Kwan In-ho had been right. The alliance between Council species and Vorlak Empire was fragile. As losses mounted, accusations flew between different factions. Some Vorlak commanders began attacking Council ships they blamed for tactical failures. On the 6th day, Captain Yoon Jae-min's special operations teams struck the killing blow. While enemy fleets battled in space, his Marines captured the Council command ship. Without central coordination, the alliance fell apart completely. "Admiral Park, this is Captain Yoon," came the transmission from the captured vessel. "We have their entire command staff. The enemy fleet is in full retreat." Park. So-min watched through her viewport as thousands of Council and Vorlak ships fled the nebula. Behind them, they left destroyed vessels and broken dreams of conquest. "Signal all Federation forces," she ordered. "Pursue and capture any ship that surrenders. Destroy any that continue fighting." The greatest naval battle in galactic history had ended in complete Federation victory. But Park So-min knew this was just the beginning. The Council's power was broken, but rebuilding the galaxy would be an even greater challenge. "Ma'am," interrupted Commander Kim Ji-won, "we're receiving surrender offers from 16 Council worlds. They want to join the Federation." "Admiral Park," So-min nodded slowly. The galaxy was changing once again. This time, humanity would make sure it changed for the better. The aftermath of the Meridian Nebula battle changed everything. Admiral Park So-min stood in the captured Council command ship, reading surrender messages from across the galaxy. Worlds that had served the Council for millennia were abandoning their former masters. "Nexus Prime is requesting immediate Federation protection," reported Commander Kim Ji-won. "Their planetary governor says Vorlak raiders are threatening the capital." Park So-min almost laughed at the irony. The same world that had expelled humanity now begged for human protection. Captain Oh Soo-jin docked her damaged Retribution at IAO, New Geneva's orbital station. The Nemesis-class destroyer had taken heavy fire during the battle, but its adaptive armor had saved the ship. Dr. Choi Hyun-woo met her at the airlock. "How did she perform?" he asked, examining the scarred hull plating. "Like nothing I've ever flown," Oh Soo-jin replied. "The ship learned from every hit. By the end of the battle, enemy weapons were barely scratching us." "Good. We'll need that advantage for what comes next." President Lim Tae-kyung addressed the Federation Assembly from New Geneva. The hall now contained representatives from over 60 species, including several former Council worlds. "The old galactic order is dead," he announced. "But we must be careful how we build the new one. Power corrupts, and we've seen what happens when any species believes itself superior to others. The applause was thunderous, coming from beings who had lived under council oppression for generations. Admiral Bae Sung-ho's rescue fleets worked overtime liberating enslaved populations. The Morvani evacuation had been just the beginning. Dozens of species previously unknown to the galaxy were being freed from council labor camps and processing facilities. "Admiral, we've discovered something terrible on Xerion 4, reported Captain Jang Min-ki from the rescue ship Mercy. The council was using Hilani children as living computers for their banking systems. Bae Sung-ho closed his eyes in pain. Even after years of fighting council cruelty, new horrors kept emerging. "Get them out," he ordered. "All of them. And make sure they receive the best medical care we can provide." The Hilani were a species of telepathic humanoids whose children's minds could process vast amounts of data. The council had been harvesting them for centuries, using their abilities for financial calculations and strategic planning. Dr. Song Young Mi worked with Hilani healers to help the rescued children recover from their trauma. Many had never seen sunlight or breathed natural air. Their neural pathways show severe damage from overuse, she reported to Admiral Bae. But with time and care, most should recover fully. Meanwhile, General Kang Hae-jin prepared for the most important mission of her career. Intelligence reports showed that the Vorlak Empire was massing for one final attack, this time targeting Earth itself. "They want to strike at the heart of the Federation," she explained to her Marine commanders. "Make humanity pay for destroying their Council alliance." The Vorlak were different from other species humanity had faced. They lived for war, breeding soldiers in artificial wombs and programming them for aggression from birth. Their ships were floating fortresses designed for planetary bombardment. Fleet Admiral Ro Ki-tae coordinated Federation defenses around the solar system. Earth's orbital platforms had been upgraded with quantum weapons, and the asteroid belt contained hidden missile batteries. "Sir, long-range sensors detect the Vorlak fleet," announced Lieutenant Commander Park Seo-yoon. 2,000 ships heading directly for Earth. "Signal all Federation forces," Ro Ki-tae ordered. "This is what we've been preparing for." The Federation had learned from the Meridian battle. Instead of meeting the enemy in open space, they prepared a layered defense designed to break Vorlak formations before they reached Earth. Captain Yoon Jaemin's special operations teams had spent weeks infiltrating Vorlak space. What they discovered surprised everyone. "The Vorlak Empire is fracturing," he reported during a secure briefing. "Different clan leaders are fighting over resources. Some want to continue the war, others want to negotiate." Dr. Kwan In-ho studied the intelligence data carefully. "We can use this division against them. If we target the right clan leaders, we might turn them against each other." The battle for Earth began at the edge of the solar system. Vorlak ships encountered the first defense line near Neptune's orbit. Federation forces didn't try to stop them. Instead, they struck hard and fast before retreating. "Hit-and-run tactics," Admiral Lee Hae-rim explained to her squadron commanders. "Make them think we're weaker than we are, draw them deeper into our trap." The Vorlak fell for the deception perfectly. Their clan leaders competed to be first to reach Earth, pushing their fleets forward without proper coordination. Captain Oh Soo-jin piloted the rebuilt Retribution with deadly precision. The Nemesis-class destroyer had been upgraded with lessons learned from the Meridian battle. Now it could reconfigure not just its armor and weapons, but its entire hull shape. "Switching to stealth configuration," she announced as Vorlak scouts approached her position near Jupiter. The Retribution became almost invisible, its hull absorbing sensor radiation instead of reflecting it. Vorlak ships passed within kilometers, without detecting the hidden destroyer. General Shin Woo-hyun commanded ground forces preparing for the worst-case scenario. If Vorlak ships reached Earth, Marine units would fight to protect evacuation sites and critical facilities. "Remember," he told his troops, "we're not just defending our homeworld, we're protecting the dream of freedom for every species in the galaxy." The decisive moment came when Vorlak forces reached the asteroid belt. What they thought was empty space suddenly erupted with weapons fire. Federation engineers had turned floating rocks into hidden fortresses. Now, Admiral Park So-min commanded from her flagship. Federation fleets emerged from behind asteroids, planets, and moons. The Vorlak found themselves surrounded by enemies they couldn't see coming. But the alien warriors didn't panic. Vorlak crews had been bred for combat, and they fought with terrifying skill. Federation ships took heavy casualties as Vorlak plasma cannons tore through their formations. The battle might have gone badly for humanity, except for Captain Yoon Jae-min's secret mission. His teams had been busy during the fight, broadcasting messages throughout the Vorlak fleet. Clan leader Thokmar has betrayed the Empire, the messages claimed. He plans to seize Earth for himself and abandon the other clans. The lies were carefully crafted using intelligence gathered from Vorlak prisoners. Soon, different clan fleets began attacking each other instead of Federation forces. "Sir, the enemy fleet is tearing itself apart," reported sensor operator Kim Mi-young in amazement. Admiral Park So-min watched as Vorlak ships turned their weapons on former allies. The warrior culture that made them so dangerous also made them vulnerable to manipulation. The battle for Earth lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the Vorlak Empire's main fleet was destroyed or scattered. Some clan leaders escaped with small forces, but their threat to the Federation was broken. President Lim Tae-kyung stood in the ruins of what had been Council space, now mostly controlled by Federation forces. The old galactic government had collapsed completely, leaving billions of beings looking for new leadership. "We have a choice," he told the expanded Federation Assembly. "We can become the new council, ruling through force and fear, or we can build something better." Ambassador Park Jin-woo presented the new Federation Charter to representatives from over 200 species. Unlike the council's rigid hierarchy, it guaranteed equal rights and representation for all members. "No species will ever again be treated as slaves or second-class citizens," he declared. "The Federation exists to serve its people, not the other way around." The vote was unanimous. Even former council worlds, desperate to escape the chaos following their government's collapse, agreed to the democratic principles. Dr. Nam Seo-young worked with integration committees to help former slaves transition to freedom. Many species had forgotten how to govern themselves after centuries of council control. "It will take time," she explained to Admiral Park So-min. "Some cultures have been so damaged by oppression that they don't trust their own judgment anymore." "We have time," Park So-min replied. "And we have patience. Freedom is worth waiting for." The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. Across hundreds of worlds, beings who had never known choice were learning to make decisions for themselves. Former enemies worked together to rebuild damaged systems and establish new governments. Admiral Lee Hae-rim commanded Federation peacekeeping fleets that patrolled former council territory. Her ships protected new governments from Vorlak raiders and helped establish trade routes between worlds. "Ma'am, we're receiving reports of Vorlak attacks in the Rigel sector," reported her communications officer. "Signal the fleet," Lee Hae-rim ordered. "Time to remind them that the Federation protects its members." The irony wasn't lost on any of the human commanders. 5 years ago, they had been expelled from galactic civilization as dangerous warmongers. Now they were the galaxy's protectors, defending freedom and democracy across known space. But Admiral Park So-min remembered the lessons of the Council's fall. Power corrupted, and even the best intentions could lead to tyranny. The Federation would need constant vigilance to avoid repeating history's mistakes. 2 years had passed since the final defeat of the Vorlak Empire. The galaxy looked completely different now. President Kim Do-yoon stood at the observation deck of Unity Prime, the renamed capital station that had once been the heart of council power. Below her, the massive assembly chamber buzzed with activity. Representatives from 300 species worked together on legislation, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts. It was everything the old council had claimed to be, but never was. "Madam President, the Altarian delegation is requesting a meeting," announced her aide, Director Cho Sung-min. "They want to discuss reparations for their slave mining operations." President Kim Da-yoon nodded. The Altarians had been one of the council's founding species, but now they were genuinely trying to make amends for millennia of oppression. Schedule it for tomorrow. And make sure Dr. Nam Seo-young attends. Her integration protocols will help them transition. Dr. Nam Seo-young had become the Federation's expert on helping former oppressor species adapt to equality. It was delicate work. Many council species struggled with guilt and fear about their past actions. Admiral Lee Hae-rim commanded the largest peacekeeping fleet in galactic history. Her ships patrolled from the galactic core to the outer rim, protecting trade routes and newly established governments. "Admiral, we're detecting Vorlak raiders near the Vega system," reported Captain Seo Min-jae from the destroyer Vigilance. "Response time?" Lee Hae-rim asked. 40 minutes at maximum speed. Take your squadron and intercept. Remember, we're there to protect civilians, not hunt enemies." The Federation's approach to military action was different from both Council and Vorlak traditions. Force was used only to protect, never to conquer. Defeated enemies were offered rehabilitation rather than destruction. Ambassador Park Jin-woo worked tirelessly to maintain unity among the Federation's diverse membership. 300 species meant 300 different cultures, value systems, and ways of thinking. The crystalline Nexari want to establish a trade monopoly on rare minerals, he explained during a cabinet meeting. The gas-based Etherians claim such contracts violate their environmental beliefs. "What do you recommend?" asked President Kim Da-yoon. "Compromise. The Nexari get mining rights in exchange for funding Etherian atmospheric restoration projects. Both species benefit." Such negotiations happen daily across Federation space. Unlike the Council's top-down authority, the Federation encouraged member species to work out differences through discussion and mutual benefit. The biggest challenge came from species so damaged by oppression that they couldn't trust their own judgment. The Helani children, rescued from Council computer systems, were slowly learning to be children again rather than living calculators. Dr. Song Young-mi ran specialized therapy programs for traumatized populations. "Many species have forgotten how to make choices," she reported. "They ask permission for everything, even things like what to eat or when to sleep." "Healing takes time," replied Dr. Nam Seo-young. "The Council spent millennia breaking these cultures. We need patience to help them rebuild." Captain Oh Soo-jin now commanded a squadron of Nemesis-class destroyers, training pilots from dozens of different species. The adaptive ships required flexible thinking, something many aliens struggled with after centuries of rigid military traditions. "The Threnodi are natural pilots," she explained to Admiral Lee Hae-rim. "Their six-armed physiology lets them control multiple systems simultaneously. But they're still learning to improvise. Keep working with them. The Federation's strength comes from combining different abilities. The integration of former Council military forces was particularly challenging. Officers who had spent centuries following orders without question now had to learn initiative and independent thinking. General Kang Hee-jin established new training programs that emphasize protection over conquest. "We're not warriors anymore," she told her mixed-species marine companies. "We're guardians. Our job is to help, not harm." The transformation wasn't always smooth. Some Federation worlds struggled with the transition to democracy, while others faced economic difficulties as old trade relationships collapsed. Captain Yoon Jae-min's intelligence teams monitored potential trouble spots throughout Federation space. "The Morvani homeworld is having political problems," he reported. "Different mathematical factions can't agree on resource allocation formulas. Send a mediation team," ordered Admiral Park So-min, "and make sure they include species that understand Morvani culture." The Federation's response to problems was always the same: help, don't control. Member worlds were encouraged to solve their own difficulties with Federation support, rather than having solutions imposed from above. Fleet Admiral Ro Ki-tai oversaw the massive demobilization of Federation military forces. With the Vorlak threat ended and Council resistance collapsed, the galaxy's largest navy was transitioning to peacetime operations. "We're converting 60% of our warships to exploration and research vessels," he explained to the Assembly Defense Committee. "The galaxy is full of uncharted systems that might contain new civilizations." The exploration program was typically Federation in its approach. Instead of seeking conquest or exploitation, the mission was to find new friends and trading partners. Dr. John Unji's quantum communication network had become the nervous system of galactic civilization. Instant communication across any distance allowed unprecedented coordination and cooperation. "We're receiving contact requests from beyond the galactic rim," she announced excitedly. "There are civilizations out there we never knew existed." "What kind of civilizations?" asked President Kim Da-yoon. "Unknown. But their mathematical signatures suggest intelligence equal to or greater than anything we've encountered." The possibility of contact with new species excited everyone. The Federation had proven that different cultures could work together. Now they might have the chance to extend that cooperation even further. Admiral Park So-min, now in her 70s, spent her days writing memoirs and teaching at the Federation Naval Academy. Young officers from hundreds of species learned the lessons of humanity's journey from exile to leadership. "The most important thing to remember," she told her students, "is that true strength comes from lifting others up, not putting them down." The Council forgot that. We must never make the same mistake. Dr. Choi Hyun-woo served as the Federation's first Secretary General, coordinating policies across member worlds. His office on Unity Prime had become a symbol of the new order, simple, functional, and accessible to anyone who needed help. "Sir, the Kithura are requesting assistance with their atmospheric processors," announced his assistant, Commander Lee. Ju-won approved. "And see if the Etherians want to help. This sounds like their specialty." Such cooperation would have been impossible under Council rule. Different species sharing technology and expertise freely, working together for mutual benefit rather than competing for dominant positions. The Federation's success story wasn't without critics. Some human politicians argued that Earth deserved special status as the liberator of galactic civilization, but President Kim Da-eun consistently rejected such proposals. "We didn't fight for human dominance," she reminded the Earth Parliament. "We fought for freedom and equality. Those principles apply to us too." The Federation Council of Worlds met annually on different member planets, ensuring that no single species became too central to government operations. This year's meeting was on the Threnody homeworld, celebrating their complete recovery from millennia of slavery. Elder Engineer Thakmor, now over 90 years old, gave the opening address. His voice was weak, but his words carried the weight of lived experience. "When Admiral Lee Dae-ho first offered us partnership instead of protection, we didn't understand the difference. Now we do. Partners choose their own path. Protected beings follow someone else's." The applause lasted for 10 minutes, coming from beings who represented every corner of known space. As the assembly concluded, Admiral Park So-min stood once again at Unity Prime's observation deck. Dr. Choi Hyun-woo joined her as he had so many times over the years. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if the Council hadn't expelled us?" he asked. Park So-min considered the question while watching a group of young beings from a dozen different species playing together in the station's garden levels. Human children laughed alongside Threnody youngsters, while Morvani juveniles solved puzzles with Hilani students. "We'd probably still be junior members following orders and accepting scraps," she replied. "Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that could happen. And the future? Bright," Park So-min said without hesitation. "We've proven that different species can work together as equals. Now we get to explore what's possible when cooperation replaces domination." Outside the station, Federation exploration ships prepared for departure to distant galaxies. Their crews included members from hundreds of worlds, all united by the simple belief that everyone deserved freedom and dignity. The ships launched into hyperspace, carrying humanity's greatest gift to the universe: the knowledge that diversity was strength, that cooperation was more powerful than conquest, and that even the greatest empires were built not by those who sought to rule, but by those who chose to serve. In the end, humanity's exile from the Council had become the galaxy's salvation. What began as punishment